Today we're diving into Tony Robbins' massive guide, Money, Master the Game. He sat down with some of the greatest financial minds on the planet to create a simple blueprint for financial freedom. We're going to distill all of that wisdom into 7 clear steps you can actually use, starting with a hard look at the system we're all part of.
All right, let's just jump right in with a pretty provocative statement from best-selling author Michael Lewis. He doesn't pull any punches, does he? But look, this isn't just some cynical comment. It's a serious warning. The financial system, it's not a level playing field. It's more like a jungle, and if you don't know the rules of the game, well, you're probably the one being hunted.
So before you can even think about mastering the game, you've got to understand the jungle you've been thrown into. That's step 1. Know what game you're actually playing. And you have to realize, this is not your grandparents' retirement world anymore. Not even close.
You know, it wasn't that long ago that retirement was a pretty simple deal. Your company gave you a pension, a guaranteed paycheck for the rest of your life. Simple. But today, that's all been swapped out for this do-it-yourself system. We've been told we have freedom of choice, but really, that freedom has just buried us in a maze of options that feels intentionally confusing and, frankly, overwhelming.
And this complexity, it's not an accident. It's a feature, not a bug. We get this alphabet soup of investment products thrown at us. I mean, CDOs, collateralized debt obligations. These things were so complicated that even the bankers selling them didn't fully get the risks. And yeah, they were right at the heart of the 2008 financial crash. The system is built to be confusing, which puts the average person at a massive disadvantage right from the get-go.
So how in the world do you survive this jungle? Well, you start by learning where the traps are. Let's pull back the curtain on the biggest myths Wall Street loves to tell. The ones designed to quietly siphon money out of your accounts without you ever even noticing. This leads us to the next few steps. Learning the hidden rules that can absolutely destroy your returns.
Okay, step 2 is all about beating the fee game. And that starts with spotting the most dangerous lie in the entire financial industry. That those little tiny fees on your mutual funds, they don't really matter. It sounds so small, right? 1%, 2%. But over time, that tiny number grows into a wealth-destroying monster.
So here's what that small fee actually looks like. Let's imagine 3 friends, Jason, Matthew, and Taylor. They each invest the same 100 grand, and they all get the same 7% return. The only thing that's different is what they pay in fees. Jason's 3% fee literally cuts his final nest egg almost in half compared to Taylor, who only paid a 1% fee.
Let's be really clear on this. That 2% difference in fees means Taylor walks away with 77% more money than Jason. As the legendary founder of Vanguard, Jack Bogle, used to say, when you pay these crazy high fees, you could be giving away half or even more of what your nest egg could have been.
So who's selling you these funds with the high fees? Well, a lot of the time it's a broker. Now they might be a perfectly nice person, a great guy, but you have to understand their job. They work for a firm, and legally, they are not required to put your financial interests first. In fact, their paycheck might actually depend on them selling you a product that's better for their firm than it is for you.
And that brings us to step 3. Make sure you're working with a fiduciary. See, unlike a broker, a fiduciary has a legal and an ethical duty to act in your best interest, always. This isn't just a tiny difference in vocabulary. It is the absolute most important distinction when it comes to protecting your money and becoming a financial insider. The threats out there are very real, for sure. But that brings us to step 4, and Tony Robbins argues this is the most important step of all. Because the biggest thing standing between you and wealth, it isn't Wall Street, it's you. It's the 6 inches of space between your ears. That is what will ultimately decide your financial future.
This right here is one of Robbins' core beliefs. We get so obsessed with the mechanics, which stocks to pick, what funds to buy, but he insists, nah, 80% of success is your psychology. Your mindset is literally 4 times more important than your strategy.
Look, we all have stories we tell ourselves about money. And a lot of times, these stories get baked into our brains when we're kids, and they can hold us back our entire lives. If your inner story is investing is too complicated, you'll never even start. If you think money is evil, you'll find a way to mess things up anytime you get close to having some. The real breakthrough happens when you consciously decide to change the story to one that empowers you.
And really, that's the bottom line. It's that simple. Once you divorce that old limiting story and you marry a new one based on truth and possibility, your whole world opens up. The strategies that were invisible before suddenly come into focus, and the path forward becomes clear.
Okay, so now that we've got our heads screwed on straight, let's build the machine. This is where we get into the nuts and bolts, steps 5 and 6. This is the simple but incredibly powerful blueprint for actually building your financial freedom.
All right, let's jump into step 5, automate your savings. This is all about making the single most important decision of your life, which is deciding to be an investor, not just a consumer. And after that, we'll hit step 6, mastering asset allocation. That's how you build a portfolio that's ready for anything.
Step 5 is all about tapping into what Albert Einstein himself called one of the most powerful forces in the universe. It's not just about setting money aside, it's about unleashing this incredible power that lets your money make more money all by itself, day after day, year after year.
And this little story just illustrates the magic perfectly. You've got two brothers. William starts investing at age 20, and he stops completely after 20 years. His brother, James, waits until he's 40, but he invests for 5 years longer. So what happens? By retirement, William, who invested less money for less time, ends up with almost 600% more. That's the insane power of starting early.
So the strategy here is dead simple. Automate everything. You decide on a percentage of your income that you're going to invest. Make it non-negotiable and have it automatically move to your freedom fund before you even see it. This takes willpower completely out of the equation. It just happens. It turns saving from a chore into a system that builds a money-making machine for you while you sleep.
Okay, so you've automated your savings. Awesome. That is genuinely half the battle. But now for step 6, asset allocation. If trying to time the market is a fool's game, then how do you protect yourself from the crashes that you know are going to come eventually?
For this, Robbins gives us the all-weather portfolio, which comes from legendary investor Ray Dalio. It's designed to be balanced and work in any economic season, whether the economy is growing or shrinking, whether inflation is rising or falling. You'll notice it's heavy on bonds. Well, that's the shock absorber. It's meant to provide stability when the stock market, which is the most volatile part, inevitably goes crazy.
And the absolute genius of this whole approach is that you stop trying to be a psychic. You're not trying to guess what the market's going to do next month or next year. You're just building a financial vehicle that is strong enough to handle any storm that comes your way. You're prepared, not predictable.
And here is the proof. Remember the 2008 financial crisis? The big one. The S&P 500 got absolutely crushed, down 37%. This all-weather portfolio model, it lost less than 4%. 4! While everybody else was panicking and losing their shirts, this portfolio was just doing its job. It was protecting.
So there you have it. You have the insider's toolkit now. You've got the mindset, you have the blueprint for saving, you have the strategy for investing. The game really is winnable. And that brings us to the final and really the only part that matters. Step 7, you have to take action. So the only question left is, what's the one move you're going to make today to start your journey?